going to hurt you the most when you die, it's going to be what did I spend my life doing? Did I waste it?
For sure.
So really the best armor against old age is a well-spent life preceding it. And this one's cool too. Life's tragedy is that we get old too soon and wise too late. When you're finished changing, you're finished. That's Ben Franklin. But so these are like,
What's going on? We're back, and I have a super special guest. This guy, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I think it's 3,100 gyms serviced. I read that it was 134% growth in some of these gyms in the first year from 2023. I met him because my wife is an instructor. Let me stop. Welcome to episode 6, Don't Fold Podcast. I'm your guest, Tatted Investor, and we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Arce. What's going on, brother?
how you doing?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I actually don't do podcasts anymore, so this is like, I'm doing this because of your friend.
You heard it here first, and I'm grateful. I was telling him, we were kind of talking before we started, and so as you guys know, I talk about this a lot. And for everybody that's watching, I'm from the south side of Colorado Springs. Didn't have a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out of, and worked hard, made the right decisions, got out of some really terrible situations to where I am now. Some of you think I'm wildly successful. I meet gentlemen like Mike, and I realize that there's levels, okay? I didn't tell you this, so you guys know that I had qualified. And when qualified was like, it wasn't even an infant. It was like a cell. It was like still an idea in my head. So mind you, Mike, I met him because my wife works at Lifetime. My wife and his wife are really good friends. And at the time I was very, very young in my entrepreneurial journey. I'm trying to figure it out. And I asked, like, hey, do you think Mike would mind? And this is a seasoned vet, a serial entrepreneur. This man is really successful. And he was willing to meet with me. And when I tell you, he took qualified and did open heart surgery on it. Like, what is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? And I was like, oh my God, I was panicking because I didn't have an answer. And I realized in that moment that what you gave me was invaluable. Because what you did for me in that moment was you made me realize, like, if you're going to compete, if you're going to create something that is worth creating, you need to make sure that it is dialed in to the most smallest, from the name to the colors to what's the mission, why are we pushing it, to then when we get into the logistical side, what is the numbers, how do they make sense? And that has transformed me in ways that you have no idea. So
That's cool.
I am extremely grateful for that, and I will have that for the rest of my life, because now when I have Diamond Wealth and we're building a home that just got appraised for $850,000 in Whitman, and we'll make a decent margin on that. And I have the real estate side, and the finances are finally starting to catch up to the work for me and my family. The moments where I was like, I wanted to give up and I wanted to quit, and I'm supposed to be like Mr. Don't Fold. I got the Don't Fold podcast, but I remember moments like that with you, and I remember admiring, like, man, okay, like if he's willing to do it, if he's willing to sit here with me and talk to me, and I knew a little bit of your story, I'm like, I can do this. And he's giving you some valuable information to make sure you do it correct. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation. I don't remember all the details of it, but I remember the conversation.
I remember everything. I remember what you ate, brother.
What I ate, I don't remember what I ate.
It was, I think you had bacon. I know you had cottage cheese.
Yeah, cottage cheese and fruit.
Yep, you had cottage cheese and fruit.
Eggs.
Yep, that's exactly what you had.
Same breakfast.
Yep, that's exactly what you had. I remember it. So yeah, it's changed me for sure. It's changed the way that I've approached everything. Even the conversations we've had about, the amount of money you need to make, why you need to make it, like all those, everything from that morning was ingrained in my brain, because I looked at you and I knew, like, I've read enough books and I've, listened to enough people that you kind of got to eat the meat and spit out the bones depending on who you're listening to.
Right.
And I know a lot of our conversations have been very, very informative for me, because I look at your wife, I look at your wife, I look at your life, I look at your family, and I look at just who you are as a man, what you've been able to accomplish. And I not necessarily compare, but I resemble myself, like, man, that would be nice to get to a level of that, to where we could be that. but then I listen to how you talk and and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. So everything that I've learned from you, I've been able to apply to my life, and it's worked. So
That's great, and it's great to hear like how much you're doing too since I last talked to you, because you're doing a lot with real estate now, and it's cool to see. You learned a lot fast.
I tried.
Yeah.
So as you know, like I say on every podcast, if you see a guest on this show, it's because there's something about them that I admire, and they have been through something that they could have buckled, they could have quit, they could have gave up, but instead they chose to push through the wall, push up the mountain, and it's to show you guys time and time again that it's not one person, it's not two people, it's multiple people that can go where you want to go. They had an idea, they put the idea into motion, and they were able to follow through. So Mike, if you don't mind, please give us some of your backstory, who you are. I didn't want to take too much of your shine, but
Yeah, wife with which and my 4 kids. My oldest will be 18 in a few days, so I'm actually taking him to New Jersey tomorrow. We're going to check out the city, and I'm taking him to the Tony Robbins conference for 4 days. So he actually just surprised me and started a business a few months back, and it's cool to see.
Come on.
Now I got 3 daughters trailing, and they're all in active stuff, which is great. My wife and I have been married now since 2010, so April it'll be 15 years. Originally from New Jersey, and moved out to Arizona on my 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Which was July 15th. So the heat, it was like the worst day to move. I just didn't know. It felt like a good day to move in Jersey. It was a bad day to move in Arizona.
Every July in Arizona is crazy.
And I had a lot of jobs. I didn't have like a specific thing that I wanted to do. I still don't. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. By the time I was 24, I had 22 jobs. I lived in like 4 or 5 different places from like 18 to that age. I think I get interested in a lot of things, and I don't keep interest for long in most things. A few things I keep, and those things are probably till the day I die, but most things I'm bored with within a few years.
Wow. Yeah.
And so it kind of made sense. But I think it's continuing to carry as an adult.
Right. So with the company that the Loud Rumor, some people have the idea of like trying to do it on the scale that you took Loud Rumor to. From day one, like could you take us through like conception of Loud Rumor, like when like the day before, right? Like where are you at? How old are you? When are you like, okay, this is what I'm gonna attack. This is why I'm gonna attack it.
Yeah. So I didn't have the idea at the time to build a company like what we have today. My vision was much smaller than what it ended up becoming. So I feel like if I would have asked for the life I have today, I would have felt greedy.
Wow.
At the time, asking for that.
For sure.
At the time, I wanted to be able to earn more money and have a little bit more control. The economy had just, crashed. It was about 2009, and we were starting to feel all the effects of the 08, recession, which is the greatest recession of all time. My wife had, prior to my wife losing the job, I kind of had the itch to start another company. I had a personal training company earlier, like a few years before, and I was like maybe 20. I don't know, whatever 2009 is. So I was 27 at the time when I had this itch to start another business. And then the recession hit, so kind of like sat on the back burner for like 11 months, or a little sooner than that, maybe 9 months. My wife got pregnant, found out she found out she was pregnant. She didn't tell me yet because she told her boss first and was planning on telling me on Father's Day.
Oh, wow.
She told her boss first to just kind of prep for what this means for work.
Right.
And then she got fired a few days later, prior to Father's Day. So she didn't tell me when Father's Day came around because she was so worried about us not having that second income. And she didn't want to stress me out. So she kept looking for another job, found another one, decided to wait till my birthday was like a month later. And, so she told me on my birthday, which was great. And then about a month after that, she started the show, and I said, you should probably tell your boss. And she was nervous because of the trauma from the previous one.
Right, yeah, for sure.
And so I finally convinced her to tell him, and she did, and she got let go that same day. Yeah, so when the recession was bad, what you got to understand is like looking at it from the owner standpoint, if you're looking at it from the employee standpoint, and in a flush economy, you're like, what a cruel world. Like, who would do that? Who would do that? But a lot of these businesses were losing money already, hand over fist. They couldn't afford to stay open, but they also couldn't afford to close.
Right.
So they were just like, dying slowly.
Yeah.
I'm surprised if any of those two are even in business still, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have, like, what are you going to do? Pay maternity and then also pay for someone to replace her?
You're looking at it's a macro scale that we're looking at it from.
Yeah. If you're looking at it today in a flush economy, it's like very different. But so she got let go, and now we had to figure out what we were going to do, and nobody was hiring, especially a woman that was pregnant. My job was that's showing pregnant. My job was slowly going down because of the economy as well. So we decided to start the company, and it was a web design company at the time. That's it. And so I didn't know how to design a website, but we outsourced to people in the Philippines. We'd sell a website for $500 to $1,000. We'd outsource it for $150, and what we'd get paid to do is manage that project between that's a conversation you have to have.
Yeah.
And we were up a lot of hours because in India, you don't really start working for us in the U.S. because of their hours. Like, we start working around like 6, 7, 8 o'clock.
I was just going to say that. Now you got to figure out
But we got to sell people during the other time, right?
Yeah.
So we were just working a lot, like, sleeping a few hours a day. Even Marjan at 5 months pregnant, she made 230 cold calls a day for 5 straight weeks.
She's a monster.
So I built her that script that we talked about, right? What to say, and if somebody says this, flip to this page and read that. Or something.
I love it.
So she made a lot of calls, and then eventually she set up enough appointments for me to where I made some sales, and I felt confident quitting my job. I did, and we went full force. And the evolution of that company kind of went in parallel to the evolution of my education in business.
Right.
And in the beginning, I just kind of picked something, right? And I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I just kind of said, it'll make money. I didn't know what I didn't know, so I felt like I knew enough. And there's so with like just the right amount of ignorance, you actually believe you're smart. Like just the right amount of ignorance.
I'm guilty of that.
And once the ignorance decreases a bit, then you realize you're not as smart as you were.
Yes.
And over time, as the ignorance really decreases, you realize there's a lot that you don't know.
Yep. And
you start appreciating elders all of a sudden. You start appreciating experience. You start appreciating people that have been down a journey. Whereas early on, the 18-year-old believes he knows more about life than his parents. The young entrepreneur is excited to give advice. The person that doesn't study politics is convinced that their choice is the only logical one.
Yeah.
The person that's never had a kid before and is pregnant or just had a baby doesn't want to be suggested how to parent. I mean, the list goes on and on.
That's so real.
And I've broken all of them, right? Like, I've been guilty of all those. It's a journey that I think everyone goes on.
Yeah.
But at the time, I just started this thing. And then, we were starving. For the first year, our home would have gotten taken away from us if the recession wasn't so bad. I mean, we didn't make a mortgage payment in 9 months and they didn't take the house. God. Today, you do that 2-3 months, they're taking the house.
Yeah.
We went 9 months. They let us do a loan mod, so our mortgage went from like $1,400 a month to $1,100, which was great.
Yeah.
My car got repoed a few times. We were down to one car. It was a very, very difficult time.
What a fight, brother.
Yeah, it was a difficult time. Looking back at it now, I would never want to go through that again. I'm glad I did it, but I don't want to do that again. And so there's a lot of like trauma there for me as well. So there's a lot of decisions I really think through today, where I used to be more of like a pull the trigger on every idea and just say yes to everything. I don't say yes to a lot of things anymore.
That's what I like about. First of all, what a story. I didn't even know all that. Like, holy cow, sheesh, brother. But it's interesting because I look at how you make decisions now, or like how you like. I can't think of a specific time, but like, we'll come over and we're talking and you're like, oh yeah, we got this going on. Or you're trying to plan for this. And I listen to how it's like your brain is a bulletin board and you're like checking points of like this, and then we got to move this, or I've even watched some of your content, or like when you're talking about, like, you had an ad and it was pretty funny, but you're with your attorney and you're like, my attorney says I can't say, but I'm looking at it from like how it's structured, like how the
Yeah.
video was written. I'm like, this dude's a freaking genius, bro. Like it's really impressive to watch. But I'm nowhere near Mike's level of success. I'm not going to pretend I am because I'm not. But
Well, hold on. Success is defined.
word,
So there's that's not true. I don't even know if I'm as successful as I've been in the past when I had less money, but I had other things going. So I don't feel like I'm at my most successful at the moment. I have more money than I've ever had.
yeah,
But I don't feel like I'm at my most successful. I feel like right now I'm struggling with my son a little bit, just figuring out like how to be the right dad. This is a very difficult. How old's your oldest?
18.
So
Yeah.
to me this is the hardest it's
tough.
been to be a dad because I see him struggling,
Right.
and I want my nature is to guide him out of that struggle,
Right.
but I don't know how to do it without this authoritarian way. And then on top of that, then I also understand that you have to let people struggle because that's where strength is born. But at the same time, strength is born due to a certain amount of struggle. You know, at the gym, if you could only bench press 200 pounds, bench pressing 205, maybe 210 will add strength. But if you rack up 1,000 pounds on that bar, you'll crush your chest.
Right.
So that understanding of like what will strengthen him and what will destroy him, and where do I step into spot and where do I let him fail? Like I feel like I've been doing a terrible job. I'm doing a good job by being actively thinking about it. I know that, but I just see myself constantly failing at that, where I feel like I've been a significantly more successful father. Just like a lot of this stuff at the early ages, I feel like were more intuitive for me.
Right.
Whereas this age, I feel so uncoordinated, and I much more grade my success as a father than financially. And so if you look at those two, if this is to me a greater weight in success than financial, who cares if I'm making more money if I feel like I'm failing? Think of it, if you looked at it financial, all of a sudden you started losing money. You feel like you can't make money no matter what you do. You can't, you don't know what to do.
I love the transparency of that because you don't see that, right? Like you and I've had videos where I've talked about before, like life is a balance of 5 pillars, and it's you want to be, financially free, physically fit, spiritually sound, emotionally stable, and have good relationships. And we call it the 5 pillars of success. If all those are intact, you're good. And it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that, because it's even with with Elijah. He's to a point where, and I told him this, like, I won't fault you for being 18 because this is the first time you've ever been 18.
And this is the first time I'm the father of an 18-year-old.
Right. And it's because when you were 18, you're like, yo, you want to like grab him by his shirt collar and be like, this way, do not do. But I've realized, so I told a story actually last night. So Elijah is taking 4 classes. And he could have graduated early. My approach was, just go online, take the classes early. You'll graduate in December. Once you graduate in December, you have a 5-month head start in life.
Julian did the same thing, and he chose to wait.
So, watch this though. So that's my angle, right? So I'm similar to yourself. I'm looking at it from, oh, you got a 5-month head start on everybody else. Like you'll be in. He's terrified. He's terrified because he understands, I'm sure as your son, after this, it's life. Senior year, life. Like it's that much of a change. So we go to his counselor because I'm like, let me just go talk to your counselor. And his counselor says, it feels very, she's like, well, my daughter did it and it was really hard for her. Like she did it, but it was really hard. We don't have a lot of students that can do it. Now, Mike, when I was a senior, I had a full schedule because I decided to trick off my junior year. I had a full schedule, both semesters, with 20 plus online classes to graduate. I'm like 4 classes. And the kid, one of the classes he has was financial math, which he's been blowing. It's like he talks about how the teacher doesn't teach him. And I watch him do it himself. Like he's like, so I'm listening to this counselor basically feed into his fear of, well, you don't want to just rush him, and you want to let him kind of just like ride it out. And I'm like, he's home at 10 o'clock every day. Like, how much? So my mind is like, how many hours of the day are we sitting playing the PS5 when you could be gearing yourself up? Because I'm telling him, like, if I could go back to be 18 years old, I would have fell on my face as hard as I could, as fast as I could, and tried to stretch it out. So by the time I got to my upper 20s, early 30s. Not true.
That wouldn't happen. If you can go back today, you wouldn't do it.
You don't think so?
No, neither would I. We wouldn't do the things we think we would do because you're thinking you're going back with what you know. It's not with what you know, it's
That's
who you
good.
are. So here's
That's good.
I'll give you an example, okay? You look at somebody that doesn't read when they know they should, that doesn't work hard when they know they should, that doesn't wake up early or doesn't go to the gym or doesn't do all these things. They're just not motivated. They're not driven.
Right.
And you think they're lazy because you do it, right? Okay, now I'll tell you a story on how I learned my lesson the hard way, that was actually backwards. So, my wife, Marjan, she used to read with me. We would read, right? She'd read, I'd read. She'd listen to podcasts, I'd listen to podcasts. She went to the gym. She woke up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym. I'd go there too. And all of a sudden, she just got, quote unquote, lazy. She started waking up like just about the minute she had to wake up to get the kids ready for school in a rush. She stopped reading. She stopped doing a lot of the stuff that she used to. She'd be exhausted by 8 o'clock at night. She wouldn't do anything for herself. It was just like she would just do everything for the kids and then pass out and just complain about how exhausted she was, how tired she was. And I'm over here like wanting to motivate her. Like, come on, you got to wake up. You're tired because you're tired. You got to move. Once you move, you get less tired. I'm over here, like, in my head saying, like, how did Marjan get so lazy? And then finally, I don't remember if she said it or if I said it, but we're like, hey, why don't we go to a doctor? And we found out she has an autoimmune disease and Hashimoto's. And the doctor said to her, I'm surprised you're even able to get out of bed in the morning. You shouldn't have any energy past 10 a.m.
Wow.
Like, the fact that you're even moving throughout the day is amazing. So now, take this back and think about it. She still worked out a few days a week. She still helped the kids get to school. She still helped them with homework. She still cooked. She still was volunteering at the church. She was still doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And with the energy that she had versus the energy that I had, even though I was doing more, technically she was working harder than me. She was outworking me. Now, if laziness is defined by work ethic, not by production, technically, we would argue that I'm lazier than her and she's got higher work ethic, regardless of production.
Right.
Okay, now go back. You think you're going to have the same hormones in you that you had at 18? You think you're still going to have the same amount of drive inside of you that you had at 18. You still think you're going to have that same focused energy, the same lack of lust that you might have now compared to then. You think all the chemicals in your body that exist at your age today are going to exist at 17, 18. If I were to transplant those chemicals into your 17-year-old self into your body today, you might be on that PS5. So if I were to dunk, I'm 5'7". If I were to dunk, people would be amazed. If LeBron was to dunk,
it is what it is.
If he couldn't dunk, they'd be surprised. If I couldn't dunk, nobody would care. Why? Because I could see the differences in the external, but you can't see the differences in the internal. So when one reads and one doesn't, one's lazy, one's not. But in reality, that's like saying when one dunks, one doesn't, one's athletic, one's not. No, that's not true.
Right.
And you can tell that because of height, but you can't see the chemicals. You can't see the cortisol. You can't see the serotonin. You can't see the endorphins. You can't see the dopamine. You can't see the oxytocin. All these chemicals that are completely impacted by what you're doing, what you're eating, genetics, whatever you got going on. So when someone doesn't read, we can't shame them. When someone isn't driven, we can't shame them. We could just be grateful that we don't have their inside, and we got lucky.
I've never heard that perspective.
So go back to 17 and tell me if it's true. Because you'd have to carry a lot more than what you know with you.
Yeah.
You'd have to carry every formula of hormone have going on.
What drove me at 19 was Zion. Because if I'm being honest, prior to that, I wasn't.
Yeah, but that drives something. So now you have a purpose.
That's what I'm saying.
Which drives serotonin.
Right.
Right? There's studies. It was actually on the NBA. I can't remember which team or what player specifically, but you could research it. But the amount of serotonin and dopamine increases that were happening through the playoff run and the immediate drop a few days after they won the championship and increase in cortisol.
Yeah.
So the pursuit of happiness is the actual victory, not the achievement of the pursuit. So for you, prior to you knowing Julian was like that for me, I was just bouncing from the job to job. I was making just enough to make enough, and that was it. And then once I found out I was going to be a dad, I don't know what drove you, but I actually grew up with a really great dad. If you grew up with a really great dad, that might have driven you. If you didn't, that might have driven you. It doesn't matter. Whatever drove you, drove you.
Right.
For me, I felt like I always wanted to be a dad. Since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a dad. And so then I got 3 jobs and, I was working like an animal. I learned to play the guitar. I did all this stuff, right? While he was in her belly growing, right? So prior to that, those chemicals didn't exist. I can make a chemical click off in your mind right now. If I were to just say, man, I got to tell you, you are one of the best podcast hosts I've ever sat down with. Immediate serotonin and also level of oxytocin, which is the community chemical. It's basically what drives civilization to be what it is, where we're together. We want to be together. Yeah. It's a reward because it's a survival chemical. If I don't feel good about our relationship, I don't fight for our relationship. Right. So we don't survive without it. We don't have claws. We don't have wings. We can't run fast. We can't jump high. We're not strong compared to most animals. We can't do a lot of things. It's all like community. Right. We're the only species that can do stuff like we do. You put any other species in the Dallas Cowboys stadium and it'll be a shit show, chaos. But we will sit in the right seats. Yep. We'll do the wave at the exact right time. We'll applause at the right time. We'll high five at the right time, and we'll leave at the right time. That's our ability to communicate in mass and actually enjoy it. So bottom line is, we had a driver that kicked in. The question is, what's going to be our son's driver? Who knows? For me, it didn't kick in until 24 because I found I was going to be a dad at 24, so it's not an age thing.
Got you. That's good. First of all, you just blown my mind within the last 15 minutes because I definitely was in my head, it made sense to be you have so much time. If I could have the time that you have, that's the reflection, I guess, is if I could cheat, right? If I could have 31, almost 32-year-old Jay Brain and 18-year-old Jay Barty, then I would fulfill blank. But 32-year-old Jay Brain has a wife.
I could say the same thing. If I could put 42-year-old and 32-year-old, I could cheat too. Right. Technically, you could keep cheating.
Right. That makes sense.
You could cheat too.
You that saying it like that makes it. It almost gives you a compassion towards to where now it's well, how do you? Yeah, that's good because now it's how do you turn that spark on in, like you said, how do you find that driver in that? Because it's
I don't know if we do.
Sheesh, that's good.
I don't know if you do. My idea, and I don't know if it's gonna work, is keep bringing him around stuff. So I've taken him to Michael Burnoff events. I've taken him to the Aspire event. I'm taking him to Tony Robbins, and hoping he bumps into people and maybe he gets driven by the people around him. Mm-hmm. I have no idea. Maybe it'll be something when he's 30 and it's amazing, right?
So how's that a reflection of how you feel as a father then?
Because I'm confused. With money, I'm not confused.
For sure.
I'm very clear. Yeah. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
With him, I'm confused because you don't know how good you are as a parent, I think, until the kid's 30, 40 years old. You got to see if they get fucked up.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Yeah. You have no idea. You I hear parents of young kids talking about how to raise kids. You don't even know if you did a good job yet.
Yeah.
You won't know. The report card doesn't come in till 30.
Right.
You think because they're 9 and they got good manners, you
Right.
think like you're doing a great job, dude? Wait, when they're 30, we'll assess.
Right. I always say, like, I used to get in arguments because I'd be like, you really don't become a true, you don't start parenting until the kid is like 5. And people are like, whatever. And I'm like, really? From like newborn, you're not really parenting, you're just keeping them alive. And then once they start like having like cognitive dissonance, like, oh, no, yes, no, kind of. Then you kind of guide. And then to when they can form a sentence, have a like, I want to push this down, even though I know it's wrong, or I understand not to push it down or whatever. That's when you have to kind of start to guide. I realized that with Zion. So now we're to the point with him where he just turned 12, and you can see his starting to get a little off about him on the court. And, you know, he's been playing competitive ball for the past couple years. And, you know, he's skill-wise, he's great. But now he's starting to get this, like, competitive, angry nature to him, which is a resemblance to how I was, you know, around that age. I was a lot more angry than he was, but you can see now that he's kind of starting to let that monster out the cage a little bit more. So now I'm having to teach him how to contain it. Like, you know, use it to your, like, use it for the adrenaline, use it for the aggression to try to, but now you have to also be composed, and you have to understand, like, every play, when you feel like a defender is rushing you, you can't rush. You have to be calculated. If they're coming to trap you, where are your teammates? Are you scanning the court? Like, all the things that embody a point guard, a successful point guard, he's having to learn it as a 12-year-old. And it blows my mind, the conversations that we have. But it's interesting, as you said, like, you don't get the report card until 30, because even with him, I'm like, okay, this is the next chapter.
Yeah.
Like, let's get it.
It's like that test you take and you're confident you did a good job, but you don't really know until you see the grade. Yep. And sometimes you get the grade and you're like, I knew it. And other times you get the grade, you're like, how?
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, like I feel like I did everything right. I studied, I did everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your son kind of shown that he's interested in? I mean, him starting a business isn't pretty.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's interested. It's hard. I think he's got the normal interest. I think when I say an average kid, don't misinterpret it. I don't mean average like he's not special or doesn't have greatness in him. I mean, he's an average kid in the fact of, like, I don't think he knows what he wants to do yet.
Typical teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very normal. I don't think that he's average in the way he's playing right now because he's got the bug. He's starting to taste it because he made more money in 2 days than he made all month working at Culver's. So he quit his job at Culver's, and now he's just doing car detailing. That's what he does.
Good for him.
Yeah.
When you're kind of looking back, because I know that, you know, we talked before the podcast, and you were kind of like, I'm kind of in a season of removing everything that you've learned. And again, this is why I love speaking with you. And for you guys that see, like, when Mike starts talking, I shut the hell up because there's knowledge in that man's brain. And I'm smart enough to know that I don't know anything. So this is good.
You have less ignorance than the person that thinks he knows it all, right? That's
Right.
And every day we're just lowering the ignorance.
Every time. But in the stage you're at, because even where I am right now, like, the things that I thought I would want a year ago, I'm realizing now, like, that's not really as enticing, like, as I thought it would be. And
that happens every, like, 7 to 10 years. It'll keep happening.
Okay. Because first it was like, my brain was, I have to have a Lamborghini. From 15 to about a year and a half ago, it was like, I need to have a Lamborghini. And then it's like, that's retarded. It feels dumb in my head. So now it's, you know, the home. And the first time was like, I'm moving to Paradise Valley on the biggest hill. Give me the $25 million, 17,000 square foot home. And then I'm like, God, that's a lot of house. Like, I don't like to be alone. Like, it doesn't feel as comfortable as this homey. Like, I'd be perfectly fine in a 2,600 square foot, right? Mm-hmm. So things are like rearranging all the time.
I'm in the process of a new house right now. And the house I have is like, to me, it was like a dream home of what I would have wanted 10, 15 years ago. And we're going to get a new home. We're going to move. I don't know if it's going to be bigger, smaller, doesn't matter. The size and where doesn't matter as much. It's all about now in this cycle, it's about functionality. Like, I want no waste. I don't want a dining room because we don't dine like that.
Yeah.
I don't want a living room because we don't live like that. I don't want a loft because we don't loft. Like I've got to, so every room's gonna have a purpose.
Yeah.
And so it's about functionality. And I don't know what that's gonna look like. We're building out that thing, but I want to be able to go down the hall and do this. I want to be able to go down the hall and do that. I want my home to be like a support system for the life. Yeah. More than, like locations can be in the same area. Yeah. Generally.
For sure. Yeah. It's because I look at your house and I'm like, oh my gosh, ideal, right? But I can see where your brain, especially because I heard one time I was at a conference and a guy said you get to a point where you've bought everything that you've wanted to buy and you realize how a bottomless pit, he was you make enough to where it's I don't care. But then if you've had that goal, because he was trying to drive the fact home of you need to have something that is internal, that it's family, or it's because he was saying that one of his biggest accomplishments that he had was him and his daughter were learning another language together. And he said his daughter was killing him. He was she would, they'd have days where they would, what do you want for breakfast? And they'd say it or whatever. And he said more times than not, she was destroying him. And he was that was his drive to try to get better. And then work kind of felt chorey almost. Mm-hmm. And he had built a company and he was doing great, but he was just that was the thing for him, And as he progressed and the work, whatever, he started kind of shifting to where it was I want to be hands off. I want to sell everything and I'm done. I just want to watch her grow and and I've realized like I said, I haven't myself got to that point where I feel like that, but I could see it because the joy that we get just being at home together when we're just if we're all laying in here or we're watching a game, we're surrounded by the computer because we don't have a TV downstairs. Mm-hmm. So we'll just surround the computer and watch a football game and wrestle. Those moments are so invaluable to me that sometimes that will be a driving force to be man, I need to go get something so we can be comfortable in my own brain. Mm-hmm. But I guess my question to you is now that you're kind of transitioning into that, are you having are you seeing that now in your life? You're just well, now I just kind of want to be a coach to my son. I kind of just want to be alongside him, trying to make sure.
I don't think I can be a coach to my son. Yeah, I think I don't. So there's I can't remember who the quote is, but the leader of the home shouldn't also be the pastor. Just look at it this way: is your wife going to take health advice better from you or from someone else that's a health professional? Yeah. Even if you're a health professional, right? My wife's not going to take business advice from me. Neither is my son. My son doesn't really ask me anything.
Right. Because you're dad.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't ask me anything. He just does it on his own. That's great. It's so hard for me to fight back because I see so many things I would do differently. And I'm the amount of suppression that exists in my body watching him grow, but I enjoy it. But no, I think my job is to be a dad, not to be a coach. My job is to be a husband, not to be a coach or a preacher. I don't know if it's even my job to be a leader. I think that's kind of almost it's become the norm where it's your job's to be the leader. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the case.
I've never heard that perspective. Why
I don't know, by the way. I'm not saying you shouldn't be.
Just to ask the question, why, what would make you not?
The leader?
Yeah.
Depends on what am I leading. Because I'll tell you, if it has to do with planning and being able to make sure others are cared for, my wife should lead. If it has to do with happiness, no matter what, my 9-year-old daughter should lead. If it has to do with humor, my 13-year-old daughter should lead. If it has to do with kindness and tuning into what other people are thinking, my 9-year-old or my 17-year-old should lead. It's having I don't know. It's hard to explain. And keep in mind, I haven't defined it yet, so I don't know. I think that's just a thought.
It's an interesting perspective because, like you said, the norm that has became my brain is the model that you never saw for me, right? So what does it look like to wake up every morning, have a work ethic, even though my dad was in the house, But my dad was very passive. Like my dad was just a work, like my dad's work ethic was bar none, like none I've ever seen. But my dad would work, get up early, he'd be gone all day, come home and just relax and chill.
What if he didn't? What if you had an amazing father that helped you learn how to love, helped you learn how to be fulfilled within your own life? He woke up at 8 a.m., maybe 8:30 every day. And then maybe around 9, 10 o'clock, before you were born, he built up the ability to like start working around 10 o'clock, have meetings with some key people till about 1, kind of express to you the importance of keeping a close group of people that are smart around you so they can really help you. And then work out maybe later in the afternoon. Then at dinner, he'd have dinner with you and make sure he shared stories. And then maybe at the end of the night, always had a movie night and maybe even played video games with you at the end of the night. Would that be a better model?
I mean, I feel like that's my perspective is different because that would be ideal for me. Like in my head, that would have been, But understand, me too. It's hard to even fathom that, to be brutally honest.
Yeah. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not saying anyone should do it. The question is there only one model? That's the question. So when we're thinking of like, because my dad worked 18 hours a day too. My mom didn't work 18 hours a day. She probably worked like 10, but with commute in Jersey and New York, she pretty much put in like 16 hours plus a day. And then she came home, cooked. My dad did the laundry and all that, so they helped with homework. So my parents had crazy work ethic, and that happened all the way my whole childhood. So I saw it, and I picked it up too. So I'm not saying that's a bad model either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't know if there's such thing as good or bad in either model. It's just what are the values that you can take away from either model, right? Some mentors you're going to meet down the road, they're shitty with people, but they're really good at persuasion and business negotiations and being able to really find a way to be creative in a lot of the things that you're going to do. But you wouldn't go to them for empathy or communication.
How should I talk to my wife about this?
Right. And you're going to have other people that are just incredible at people, but they can't sell. They're really good at keeping great people around them that do.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if there's a good or bad. It's just, what is this? Shaq, is he better than Curry or not? I don't know. It depends.
Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah, well, depends on what you're looking for.
Like Curry's better.
Depends on what you need.
It's true though, because Curry's not going to be Shaq in the paint.
It depends on what you need, what area you're playing in.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the point is, like, obviously we have an idea of what could be more hurtful, like father that's not present or a father that's abusive or something like that. But I think as long as a father loves and he works hard to instill what he believes his values are, so I guess the reason I say all that is I used to lead with my parents' values, but then I realized that they just led with their parents' values. And so not all of my values are my parents' values. Some of them are my own that I've made along the way, and they conflict with what I grew up with. But
what's one of them?
Education. Like, my son, I would spend more than he would on. I wouldn't have to, but I would spend more than I would on college by hiring business coaches, investing in masterminds or courses for him to be a part of, books, endless books, as long as you're reading them. I would spend hundreds of thousands on your education that way. Now, not that I wouldn't spend it in college if he found that aligned well with what he's looking to do in his vision, but where he's at now, he doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. So, yeah, I'm taking Tony Robbins, and I'll invest in a coach if he wants to coach, right? So that was one of them for sure. Another one is like the traditional model of like how things should be. Even just that alone, taking out the word should. I don't like the word should. I think should is completely tied to expectations, and expectations usually tied to disappointment. Very rarely is it tied to excitement, because if you met expectations, the only thing that happened is you were satisfied. So there's not even joy with meeting expectations. There's really just like, it's just above being annoyed, right?
Yeah.
So the word should is annoying, right? When you think about it, there's a very big difference where you should come to me next time, or you could come to me next time. There's a big difference with you should have thought of that. Like, you could have thought of that, right?
It felt different when you said it to me just now.
Right? Like, imagine as a friend. And I said, hey, man, you should think about that next time. Hey, you could think about that next time. It's just one of them gives you power.
I was just going to say that.
And the other one, not only does there's only pass or fail.
Yeah, you should. If it's not this, if you doing that, like, well, you should have took them to whatever. Yeah.
My team came to me the other day. We had a meeting yesterday. We had a meeting, and they were, I guess, having a hard time understanding, because there are a couple newer people on there. They were having a hard time understanding, like, the rules, which already, like, that conflicts, right?
For sure.
But they go, we just want to know when we should come to you for certain things. Like, at what point should we come to you? If, let's say, there's an idea for marketing, like, is that something we should go to you for? If there's a product idea, should we go to you? And I said, well, take out the word should and look at the word could. And she, you know, the one girl, Katie, which I love, she's like, well, no, like, if there's a marketing idea, are we allowed to just run with it? I go, yeah, you could also come to me. And she goes, but should we go to you? I go, I don't know. That's up to you, how you feel about it, right? Yeah. But for me, I don't do anything big that I'm uncertain of until I go to some mentors and get some advice and get some other people to poke holes in it. Why wouldn't I? I could. If I could and I don't, I have no advantage over anybody that can't.
Sheesh.
like why wouldn't I? Right. It's like not, I have equal opportunity of those that don't have mentors if I don't leverage them. And I said, you've got me here. I've worked in this company for 15 years. I know the ins and outs of it. I know what's worked and hasn't. I probably tested more things than you've thought of, considering I've worked here for 14 more years than you've been here.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
I know the members. I understand like how things are working in our industry. So I guess the question is, would there not be value in coming to me if you had an idea and just wanted to get my take? She goes, no, there'd be a lot of value. Okay. And knowing that you could come to me, why wouldn't you? And she goes, I guess I would. I go, then it's not a should.
Yeah.
It's not a rule. It's an opportunity.
Right.
And you're either going to leverage your opportunity to help you make better decisions.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to leverage the opportunity and risk it.
That is a explanation for your ass, man. Like, I never thought of that, because that's real. If you have, if it's at your fingertips, then you could take advantage of it. I'm not going to tell you should or you shouldn't do it, because you're leaving the ball in your court to make the best decision. And
they struggle with it because they.
I'm struggling with it, bro.
They struggle with it because we have such a rule society.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you got to go to Mike if you want to do this, or you should do this. You should, and it's like, you're adults.
Right.
We hired you because you know what you're doing. You don't have to come to me. Just understand the risk that's involved by failing. Because if you didn't come to me and you just went with this idea that I have experience in and it failed, well, that caused your score as an employee to suffer. A suffering employee score doesn't give you a lot of opportunities. It actually increases the probability of you no longer working here. So you not having the intelligence or the humility to ask for insight because your ego wants to just run with it and be your idea solely, that could be a cause for termination, right? Just not because of it failing, but because of it failing when it may not have had to.
Right. You didn't capitalize on every.
Yeah. You didn't double check. Like,
what?
You could.
What? Have you always been this deep of a thinker?
No.
Like, when did that happen? Because
you realize you're gonna die.
Yeah, because I'm like, what?
Yeah, I think so. Philosophy, like studying philosophy, is the greatest preparation for death. And I started preparing for death once I realized that death was very easy to happen. My best friend died at 35 years old. We grew up together. We went to kindergarten together. We lived down the street from each other. I walked to his house in 4 minutes. We slept over each other's house. I was a groomsman at his wedding. He was a groomsman at my wedding. I know his kids. He knows my kids. Well, a couple of them, because a couple of them are younger. But he died at 35. Like heart failure, like a heart thing, a freak heart thing. Then I've got another buddy of mine. His name's Ferris Rowland. He just passed at 36. Random heart failure, just a blockage behind his heart. I think it's called the Widowmaker artery or something like that. Just random. You or I could have it right now. We don't know. It's, I guess, pretty common. But if something happens, it could just stop, and it's within 24 hours you go. I had another friend committed suicide. Nobody knows that he committed suicide. He was one of my best friends growing up. Right? As an adult, we remain friends, but not best friends. But as a kid, we were best friends. And he was like 32. So enough of that shit happens around you, you start realizing like, oh, 65 could be the average death rate. But average factors in the people that live to 110 as well as the people that die at 30.
Wow.
And so I think about death quite a bit. Honestly, I think about it. So this is another thing, right? Growing up, you don't think about death. If anybody even talks about death, it's an Italian Jersey household, right? Immigrant parents. So they literally follow it. If you even talk about death, someone dying, somebody might die, anything like that, the phrase that follows is God forbid. God forbid. Dude, why? We know we're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And why would he forbid it? What if he needs that person? Two of the people that passed, the one that committed suicide, he was a little reckless. I'm sure he's hurt people along the way. But the other two, saints. And they fit that storyline of like, why do all the good ones go soon? I don't know. You tell me. That's a good question. You ever look to answer it from a non-victim standpoint? Why do the good ones go soon? Maybe we haven't checked every box yet like they have. Maybe the only reason we're still living is because we got boxes to check. We haven't paid the admission. Why are you thinking they're suffering? He was too young. That means he graduated early. You say that about a person that got into college at 13?
Yeah.
You don't say he's too young to go to college. No, you're like, dude, what an impressive kid. So who knows? Maybe he checked boxes. Maybe those guys check boxes. And I just got boxes to uncheck or to check.
Can I give you a different perspective?
Yeah.
So death is very prevalent. I lost the first time I experienced death was I was in 7th grade. My sister was dating a dude and he got killed, right? So I remember her running in the house crying. And then when I was 15, my boy Zay got killed. And then from 15 to about 23, I probably lost over like 25 friends to gang violence, right? So, and even today, like I can say confidently, I know more people in the graveyard than I do that have graduated college. So the perspective of death for us was a accelerator, because it was, I need to hurry up and get this because I don't know when it is, right? So I gotta get the house, get the car, get like, it's like this crazy checklist. And I've been guilty on the other side of that, of feeling like this would be an expiration clock and here's my to-do list, opposed to thinking the side that you're on, which is very philosophical about it. Mine is more like a bulletin board. Okay, do we do this? Okay, do I do this? I'm not there yet. Okay, how do we figure this out? Like, it's almost like I'm racing. And recently I've been so I don't know. I know you don't know, but not last week, or was it last week? I don't know. The last 2 weeks, I went to the hospital like 6 times in a row because I had vertigo and I had no idea what it was. I thought I had brain cancer because I was like dizzy and lightheaded. So the first time I was freaked out. We go, they put me on the EKG, they draw my blood, and they're like, you're healthy. Like, and I'm a type 2 diabetic. So they check my blood, like your blood sugar, like everything is good, you're fine. And I'm like, but I'm lightheaded. Like something is wrong. Mm-hmm. Come home and I'm still feeling it. And I'm like, babe, like I got to go back. We literally went 6 times in a row. One time we went twice in one day because I was like trying to go to my son's game and I was like yelling. And I'm like, why is me yelling making me, like, me yelling shouldn't exert me like this. Like, I'm about to pass out. So anyway, we go, and I'm like, just admit me, because I'm on Google, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's brain cancer. Or it's a stroke. Or it's like, and I'm like, bro, I'm 31. Like, what? Like, how's, like, it was that. But in that moment, Like, I remember there was one time I was sitting here, I was home alone, and I was scared to be alone because I was like, I don't want to die alone. So my thought. And this is last week. So I'm sitting in the bed, and I just pray. And I'm like, like, I feel like I've overcame enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like where I'm at, good job, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you already they didn't expect you to make it to 21, bro. Good job, bro. And I cried, bro. Like, in the bed. Like, it's funny to say it out loud.
Well, to fear death is silly because we know once the lights are off, either you're going to a better place or there's no pain at all. So what do we fear of? The only thing I could think of is like the other people around me and what they're going to have to deal with. So that's why, I talk to my family about death. My wife struggles with it. She doesn't like talking about death.
Yeah, I can see her being like,
she struggles with it. But I think about it. I think there's no greater driver to gratitude than knowing that people can die. I mean,
that's kind of stoic.
It is stoic.
Yeah, it's
like stoicism. I mean, stoicism and Taoism is very much centered around, understanding gratitude and, how things are all temporary. Everything will turn over time. One of the guys I'm studying right now is Cicero. I don't know if you ever studied Cicero at all.
I remember the book that you gave me.
Which one?
Marcus
Aurelius.
Holy cow.
So he was alive like 80. It's like 150 AD. Cicero was like 150 BC. So it's they're separated by like 250 years.
Interesting.
And Cicero was first. Cicero was he has a lot of really good stuff on aging. And death and stuff like that, which is really good. Marcus Aurelius has stuff too. Marcus Aurelius is more on like kindness and understanding people, and actually he's pretty broad. But Cicero, really cool, like talking about death and it's like, or aging. People don't like getting old. But when you're young, the best you could wish for is growing old before you die. So to actually be old one day and complain about it is complaining about the best possible outcome. Like if you're 80, you're like, I can't believe I'm already 80. It's like literally the best outcome you could have asked for.
Yeah, you did it.
Like being here. Yeah, you knew you were going to be old. You knew you were going to be like suffering and pain and stuff like. You knew that was going to happen, but you still wanted to be here.
Yeah.
And you're here. This is literally like the best outcome. You're complaining about it.
Sheesh.
What
do you when did this start happening when you were studying like aging and Cicero and like?
Well, Cicero I've been studying just really for the last few months. He's one of my. So I have this thing here. I don't know if you have this, but you should definitely have this. I've had this for years now. These are all. It's called Lessons to Stick to. It's so it's just my notes app in my iPhone, and every time I learn something that to me is like I don't want to lose that.
That's good.
I will make a note and I'll give credit to who I learned it from.
That is good.
I've got notes in here from Stoics that were alive 2,000 years ago, from Ben Franklin. I've got stuff from Steve Jobs, but then I've got stuff from mentors that I have today. I've got stuff from my 9-year-old daughter. I've got stuff from an employee. Wow. Like just because you don't know what they're learning or how they get it, but like these are all different lists. It's funny you say this because yesterday I was thinking I want to number them because I want to be able to remember the number. I can't find what I want to find sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's becoming my sauna reading. It's like my book while I read in the sauna, but now it's hard to get through it in about 30 minutes. But you'll notice the most recent ones are almost all Cicero. He's just great. So like one of them this actually talks about the preacher in the house, right? Being the dad and the preacher. The authority of those who teach is often an obstacle to those who want to learn. So if you think about it, just the fact that I am your authoritative figure is the obstacle to you learning from me. Because of my position, you know what I mean? Your enemies can kill you, but only your friends can hurt you, right? So like you fear your enemies, but in reality, it's not your enemies that are going to give you the most pain.
No.
The best armor of old age is a life well spent preceding it. So if you think about what's going to hurt you the most when you die, it's going to be what? What did I spend my life doing? Did I waste it?
For sure.
So really the best armor against old age is a well-spent life preceding it. And this one's cool too. Life's tragedy is that we get old too soon and wise too late. When you're finished changing, you're finished. That's Ben Franklin. But so these are like there's so many notes that like I have in here, and like I'm doing my best to like realize, okay, there's got to be a better system, because when I'm 70, this is going to be way too long.
Yeah.
So I actually have a notebook now, and so what I do is, depending on what I'm going through, I'll write in that book. So my transition is going to go from online content, which I feel like it's forced, like I got to create content, to this book I've got. And sometimes I'll go 4 days without writing in it. Some days I'll write twice in a day. And it's just, what I'm feeling. So like yesterday was a really good one. I took a picture of it and sent it to a friend, because I just feel like it's something that we want to do, but it's about what we talked about yesterday. Is why it's fresh in my mind. With just the right amount of ignorance, you'll actually believe you're wiser than those that are actually wiser than you. And then I have like a little paragraph explaining some stuff. But now it's this cool book, similar to Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, where nobody knows.
That's a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Man.
Other than you, I haven't talked about this publicly, but other than you, no one knows I'm writing in it. I don't talk about it. But I'll be dead one day. And when I'm dead, they'll find it. Hopefully a few of them, God, if God allows me to be alive for 90 years, 100 years, and maybe there's 4 or 5 of these books, right? Just over time. It's like a series of them.
Yeah.
But for right now, I'm working. There's no rhyme or reason to the book. It's just a journal of thoughts.
I feel like you are in a point in your life where, and this is going to sound silly, I was actually having this conversation a couple months back, but when reality becomes like real, and because of the age that we're in, this carries unnecessary weight because it's fake. Like I can fake being a millionaire. I can fake anything I want to fake on here. But when you allow your reality to like sink, and you almost like become, I don't want to say like one with the moment, but almost that. And it's like you start to like get deep like that. Like me crying in my bed because I'm like, I was just proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I had never had that moment of just like stopping. And my mom gets on me about that all the time. And I tell her it's more profound than she thinks it is, about like stopping and smelling the flowers. But my brain goes similar, not as deep as yours, but my brain goes to the point where I'm just like, I always feel like that race that against the clock because of how I viewed death of, and I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and I believe that there is life after death. But it feels like not now. So I feel like I'm, and then I've seen that there's instances where my doctor will tell me like, you need to relax.
If not now, then when?
Right.
Every day you say not now, you get good at whatever you what. What do you get good at? You get good at whatever you what?
Whatever you
practice.
Do. Whatever you practice, do consistently. Yeah.
Right. So if you say not now every day, what are you going to get really good at saying?
Not now.
By the time you're 80, you'll master at it. You literally will. You don't have to think about it. It's your core belief. Not now. So when?
Sheesh.
Like you'll never hit it. The goal post will always move. Like I told you, if I would have asked for the life I'm living today when I was 27, I would have considered myself greedy. It would have been too greedy of an ask. Don't ask for that. It's too greedy. Okay. So then why am I still working? Why am I still putting in the effort? So at the end of the day, if I were to die today, I feel good. And I think with the right mindset, I would have felt good at pretty much any age. It is what it is.
Right.
Here's the thing. I don't even know what's next.
Yeah.
There's the idea of like, the infant in the womb could never doesn't have the comprehension ability to fathom what's happening after they're born.
Right.
To them, they're dying maybe. I don't know. Who knows what they're feeling? I'm sure there's some anxiety going on.
For sure.
And then this happens. How do you explain that to a baby in the womb? How do you explain this? People want to do their best to imagine what heaven would be like or the next step, but like, maybe it can't be explained because you don't have the comprehension.
You don't have
What
the,
keeps me up at night is not what I don't know, but what I can't understand. So you knowing that there's things that my brain cannot be explained.
right.
That to me is it fucks with me. So for example, like you take the bonobo chimp. I think there's like a 2% differentiation between a human and a bonobo chimp, like DNA wise, and they can memorize up to 1,500 words. So you can say, if you wanted to, you could teach it like, hey, turn the camera on. It'll go, knows what you mean, turn the camera on. It could do that stuff, right? If you say, hey, go grab a banana downstairs, or, go outside and, open the car door and give me the water bottle. You can say that and it would probably come to you with the water bottle, right? So it understands. Apparently it's got the wisdom of a toddler or the intelligence of a toddler. That's the bonobo chimp. Okay, great. There's no chance you'll teach a calculus. It won't even understand what you're fucking saying. If you were to take the paper out and show it these lines and these figures, I mean, you can't. It doesn't have the brain power to comprehend that. Now, the worst thing that could have happened to humans is that we have no superior species to us in intelligence.
We are.
So for us, we feel like everything is comprehensible.
Yeah.
Everything is within comprehension because we comprehend more than any other species can.
Right.
So we hit it. We get it. Just tell me what it's like. You can't understand. It's like explaining the internet to an ant. It's like explaining life to a baby in the womb. You can't. I could say it. You won't even understand. There's no words. I have to use some sort of communication that's beyond vocabulary.
Right.
Because there's no words that can explain it.
Yeah.
That keeps me up, is knowing that there are things like space, like you know how hard it is to you can do your best how to comprehend that there's infinity within space. So Marjan hates when I go down this rabbit hole because she thinks I sound like a stoner when I do. But so if you think about just if it's going to sound illogical at first.
Okay.
But it will keep you up later tonight and it'll click.
I already can't sleep, so go on.
Okay. It might because it took me a while to like really fully click. But here's where it's at. I believe that there are infinite worlds that are existing right now where this is happening at the exact same time. You and me are doing this. And I'm saying this, and you're looking at me like that, and that camera's on, and that song's on, and the weather's that. I also believe there's infinite worlds where there's a slight tweak where instead of your right hand, it's your left hand that's on your chin. And why do I believe that? It's not only possible, but it's the only thing possible. Because if you think about it, it's infinity, which means infinity means there's infinite possibilities. Well, if there's infinite possibilities, that's like flipping a coin. Enough times it's going to land on its side, right? But if you have infinite flips, it's going to technically land infinitely on its side, as well as infinitely on heads, infinitely on tails. So with that said, that means there's infinite suns that are about the same size as ours, as well as infinite ones that are a little bigger, a little smaller, whatever. There's also infinite planets that are closer to the sun, as well as just about the same distance of Earth to the sun, that are about the same size. And so there's infinite realities where it's just impossible to not believe that there are infinite worlds where the exact same things are happening at the exact same time. And slight variations to extreme variations all the way down. Because it's infinite. That's hard to comprehend.
Boy.
But it's somehow within general comprehension.
Right. You can get the understanding for one, because infinite is forever. But then if you, holy cow, god dang, Mike.
It's just crazy.
Sheesh, brother.
To think about.
You definitely sound like a stoner.
Dude, for real, right? But if you that's the kind of stuff that gets me to realize, okay, that is borderline uncomprehendable. What's on the other side of the border? And how far from the line does it go? Probably infinite.
I saw one of my best friends. He studies the depths of space. And I don't remember what it's called, but it's what all the galaxies are in, and it looks like almost like that bucket right there. What is it called? Oh my gosh, he's gonna watch this and be screaming at the screen. Anyway, but it's what all the galaxies are in. But it's like the question that you just asked. Like, so if every galaxy is in this tube, what's outside of the tube?
It's there's no outside. There's no inside. So we can only think of the definitions we've created. That's what I'm saying. Just even saying what's outside of this tube or what happened before the Big Bang. We believe there's a before the Big Bang because we could only understand time.
Yeah.
But in reality, there's no before. And that's incomprehensible. There might be no after, right? Like there's a belief that there's a state we're going to go to where there is no sense of time. Where, like let's say my best friend who died 7 years ago, let's say I don't die till I'm 100. We both show up at the party together. And it's not like he waited for me or they stalled his arrival. And it's not like they accelerated mine. There's just no time. So we all arrive together. That's why I don't also fear death either. I feel like once I die, I'm not missing anyone. I'm not waiting for anyone.
Right.
We're all now in the next,
It's like almost like
we're all here.
Yeah.
I just find out, oh shit, you live to 90. Right? But like,
yeah. Really? Wow.
Because we just got here. Yeah, I just got here. But like I've been here. I lived to 90. Wow. Yeah, this is what we did without you.
Jeez.
I don't know. And who knows? Again, that's a theory that's only within comprehension.
Right. I've tried to go down, and this, like I said, I already can't sleep as it is. So it's like thinking about that. But I've had, and it's so interesting that we're talking about death because literally I had that experience for the first time ever in my adult life. And I had times like prior before when I was like doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing that made me think about death. But something that was as crazy as that, because I'm like, man, I've been working out, I've been eating healthy, I've been, so to think like brain cancer, like everything that you survive, brain cancer is going to be the thing to take you out before I knew it was vertigo. And it was just a moment of like that peace where I was just like, I didn't care what a bill, like what bill was due. I didn't care. But I didn't care about anything else. Like, but in that moment, it was so precious because it was like, cool.
Yeah. And for anybody like that's watching this or listening right now, and they're like, "Oh, I thought I was going to learn how to sell, or I thought I was going to learn how to market, or whatever business thing." But believe it or not, this stuff, if you really start getting it, or at least for me, my experience has been this kind of thinking has helped me with business more than learning a hack on how to get somebody to say yes in a sale. This like philosophical way of thinking, because then it opens you up to like a lot of understanding. So really smart guy that I'm friends with named Eric, he owns several restaurants, right? Many restaurants. And he took me through this salt shaker exercise. And so he, I'll use this here.
Okay.
Okay. And he goes, okay, Mike, because he was just walking us through, and he goes, all right, so there's a salt shaker. You want me to take you through it? You take you through it real quick?
Okay, yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's good for business. It's not going to be on the camera, but just know we're moving the thing that represents a salt shaker, okay? So he says, this is a system that you create within the business, okay? And this system is designed for a successful business. As long as the system is operating at full effect in the way it's supposed to, the business will grow and it will be a success, okay? You represent you, the manager, and I represent the world. Everything that comes in touch with your business.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is I want you to take that salt shaker and I want you to just move it. Okay, there you go. Now put it back. Okay, is that where it was? Is that where you feel it was? It's fine. There's no right or wrong.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Now my job is do that. Go ahead. Put it back. Nope, you fucked up the system. You got to put it back.
Oh, I got to put it back to where it was.
So my job as the world is to continue messing with your system. That could be a hurricane, that could be a flood, that could be an employee that got cancer, that could be a tech issue, that could be... My job as the world is to continue making your life difficult and ruining your system, putting some sort of a stick in your wheel, right? And your job, what defines you as a good manager, is your ability to keep things back where they are as consistently as possible, knowing that it's going to continue messing up. And that represents life. So in life, the world's job is to make your kids sick. The world's job is to give your wife heartache. The world's job is to take your parents unexpectedly. The world's job is to create a flood in the house. Yeah. That's the world's job. It's been doing it forever.
Right.
It'll do it forever. It's been doing it to everyone. It always will. The world's job is to keep fucking with the system.
Yeah.
And your job is to do your very best without it impacting you, to keep things back where they're supposed to be. And if you let things go too long, that salt shaker moves further and farther away, and it gets so far that you can't even ever get it back. So that's why it's every day you got to work on it. Every day you got to check in the business. Every day, hey, are we running this? Checks and balances, trust but verify. Are we running this? Are we doing this way? Are the customers getting this? Talking to customers, making sure that they're going through the experience. With McDonald's, they tested 6 different ways to say, would you like fries with that? And would you like fries with that is the phrase that they realized sold the most fries. So they stuck with that. And that's the system. And the second they hear Sally at the front saying, would you like me to add fries to your meal? She fucked up the system. And the manager's job is to put it back. And in your home, the second somebody in my house says, you should have thought of that, they fucked up the system. Or I tried to do this, but it didn't work. They fucked up the system. And my job is to recorrect and make sure the system stays in track. That's in really all of our jobs.
Right.
So, but the world's supposed to continue messing with you. It wouldn't be doing its job if it didn't.
Right. Holy cow. I think we're at 1 hour 15. I'm going to wrap this up. And if you don't mind, I would love to have you another time.
Yeah, sure.
I know for a fact you guys got value from this because I got value from this. I got the best seat in the house. Thank you. Like I said, there wasn't any expectation. I think that there is there's just a perspective like yours in my audience to say isn't heard. To know that there is a deeper way to think and how you can correlate this to whatever you do want to do. It's a lot more than just trying to run money up. It's a lot more than, and I learned that a couple of years ago myself, and I'm still learning that today. It's a lot deeper than that. And there's a lot of other things that you have to balance, as he was saying, than just trying to get $1 million.
Yeah.
Because I've heard from more than one person that that's the easy part. There's a lot of other things that you have to keep in play to stay consistent in that. So we thank you. I thank you personally, and everything I said in the beginning of this, I meant from the bottom of my heart. Like,
awesome.
You have definitely changed my thinking, my perspective, the way that I attack all of this. And damn it, you changed it again because what the hell, okay?
I appreciate it.
But Mike Arce, I'll have all his social media, even though he may not post because he's about to have a book, and we're gonna be talking about you in 1,000 years.
But I'm not publishing it.
Yeah,
it's just my family.
You gotta find
Whoever
it.
Finds
right.
It would be up to my family to decide if they wanted to do more with it. But there's no instructions to do so.
Well, we got the video, so you guys are lucky. You're welcome. So appreciate it. Look, subscribe to the channel. Leave your comment. I mean, he dropped so many freaking gems. I don't even know where to start. So we'll get him back. I'll arm wrestle him. He's busy, so I'll try to get him. And keep getting after it. Don't fold. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.